So it's boat show season, and some of you are asking yourself, which surf boat should I buy? Okay, I'm just breaking in for 1 minute because this is obviously not boat show season. It is May. I filmed this 3 months ago, and I'm sorry it's taking me so long. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. It's long. We have new video from the new Max and the SA, which you've been begging for, and the settings at the end of the video. So please watch. I hope you enjoy it. I got a bunch of videos coming afterwards. The weather sucks right now, but we're going to get on the lake very soon in our wave runners and our boat. So you can look for us out there. Have a great summer. So first, a table of contents of what we're going to discuss in this video. Some of Wake9 history and the context for this video. How did we get to Supra? What was our journey from one surf boat to another? Our bias. We do have bias and we do have loyalty, but I think it's informed bias. Let's talk about all the other wake surf boats that are out there and give some information and experience that we've had with them. The various types of surf systems out there and what I think makes some better than others. How do I personally set up a surf boat consistently to make the best wave? What is the process I go through and how do I make it consistent every time? Which surf boat should you buy at the boat show or at your dealer or wherever else you might get it? The redo of our 2025 Supra SA demo. It was great, and we'll show some video of that. So let's talk about some context for Wake9, and we'll go through this quickly. This is our 16th season. That is really hard for me to believe, but we started this channel in 2009. Why did we start it? I wanted to get my kids stoked about wake surfing. I love the water. I love the lake. I grew up surfing. I wanted to combine it all together, wanted my kids to do it with me. And the thing is, to keep them stoked, doing the video channel, doing that stuff with them, it just made it work. And basically, once we started doing it, we just kept doing it year after year, and we're still going strong. We don't sell anything. We don't sell boats. We have at times sold little accessories for our boat or things that we felt make it surf. We don't do any of that anymore, and we never made any money on it. One other thing to know about us is we don't do bad reviews. There have been times when we've been given a boat to review, and we've decided we film it and we've decided we're not going to put it out. We've just kind of gone by this guiding principle that if we don't have anything good to say, we don't want to say it. That hasn't happened too often, but it has happened a couple of times. The key takeaway there is that we're not going to put out a video saying we like a boat unless we really like that boat. It's really got to make us excited. There has even been times when we've had boats that we've demoed, which were good. They were really great, but they didn't knock our socks off. We ended up not releasing a review on it. In the beginning of Wake9, we did a lot of competition stuff that was to keep our kids stoked. Over time, we kind of stopped doing competitions. One is because our kids got older, and two, it just changed a lot. Everybody got to the point where they wanted to be sponsored. It was just, anyway, there was a lot of drama. I just didn't want to do that anymore. I always said anything that has to do with wake surfing, if I don't have fun doing it with my family, I don't want to do it. And when we first started doing the competition and everything, we had a blast. Loved every minute of it. Loved the road trips. And then we didn't have fun anymore, so we just stopped doing it. So we started out with Tigé boats. How did we start there? Well, it was really by accident. We just saved up money to buy a wake surf boat, which we knew had to be an inboard boat. This was in 2007. Sometime around 2003, we were moving to Northern California. I was driving over the bridge in Lake Shasta and saw somebody wake surfing. I had never seen wake surfing before, but growing up surfing, growing up on the lake, I went, oh my gosh, I want to do that. So we just started putting money away. I had started my business and we were saving up for our wake surf boat. We looked at all of them. And at the time, the Tigé just was a good value. We liked it. It had, didn't have too big of a bow, too small of a bow. We just liked the boat. We got it. It turned out it surfed really well. Now, interesting thing to note about my family, if you don't know this, is that I am a regular surfer. I have my oldest daughter who's a regular surfer. I have 6 kids. All the other 5 kids and my wife are all goofy. And so I wanted to have a boat that made a good wave on both sides. Turned out the Tigé and like the Sangers made at that time good waves on both sides. And the Tigé had much more freeboard, it was much safer, and you could put more weight in it. So we really felt like, wow, we really lucked out and we got a great boat. we started a relationship with them. They saw our family. We were putting out videos. Long story short, they brought us a boat to demo. They left it with us. And then we just kept doing that. We never got paid for any of it. It was just, they let us use a boat. We were like, hell yeah, let's do it. And it was fun. And then we kept, getting more. And people were buying boats based on the videos that we were making, which were all completely from our enthusiasm and our love for the sport and our love for the boat. And it worked out well. So then we started doing something called the Polar Bear events, which was just, it was a community generated idea. I mean, some of us got together. It was Dennis Horton and Frank Walter, and there were several people that got together back then, and we were just talking about it, and we thought, what if we could get manufacturers to bring boats to us and we could demo them? And at first we just got a couple, and we had a few people, and that was it, but it took off. And then all of a sudden we're getting 6 boats a year, and we had a bunch of people, and it was a blast. So we really did try just about every boat out there through those times. And you can go back and look at all of our videos, and they were a lot of fun. Some people ask why we don't do it anymore. The main reason was COVID. That when COVID hit, we stopped doing it because we had to stop because of COVID. And then after that, we couldn't seem to get people to agree on whether we should have masks, not have masks, whether people should be vaccinated. And it just, what did I say before? One of our underlying principles. If it's not fun, we don't want to do it. It became not fun. On top of that, there was a lot of pressure from boat companies to make sure the reviews were good. It was a lot of pressure from people. There were a lot of fanboys that were coming to the event. It lost the organic quality of just true, how do I feel about this boat kind of thing, and it kind of started to just delineate, that fanboyism kind of thing. So, in the end, it was a lot of fun, and we still ride a lot of different boats. We just don't do the Polar Bear event anymore. And others do stuff like it. And if you see one out there, you should go do it. It's a lot of fun. One thing I want to add about all of those Polar Bear events and all of the competitions that we did all over the country, some of them were pulled by Centurions and some by Supra, some by Natique. I would say that we felt like out of all of the boats that, other than Tigé, I would say that we felt that Supra and Natique floated to the top for us. And at the time, we had some issues, and you can go back in our channel and see them, with Tigé, where there would be engineering mistakes, and they would have to fix them, and they did do that, and we kept moving on. And the one thing we noticed about Natique and Supra is there was just a quality of engineering that we really loved with those boats, and it came out in the Polar Bear events and watching people's reviews and so forth. And so that was one thing that came through that time. Another thing that came through is that RJ and I, we started working on our own version of a system in a boat that would manage the ballast, move weight around, and used a clinometer to use pitch and roll to accurately make the best wake. We knew that was the right way after all of our experience. But we found out that Supra was building this Autowake, and it was basically doing what we had planned to do. Well, we're engineers, software engineers, and so we decided that let's just stop doing that and let's see what Supra is doing. So that's another reason why we started going that direction. Let's talk a second about loyalty. So yes, we are using Supra boats year after year. They always hear the saying, the grass is greener on the other side. There's always a prettier woman. And the point of that is that year over year, there might be a new boat, a new system or whatever, and that might be the bee's knees. We have been loyal to Supra, and we've just found that over time, we end up with a great product year over year, and we don't need to be like running to which one in any given year might have the new coolest thing. Everybody kind of catches up with each other. But the one thing that we have gotten from Supra, and that we also have seen from Natique, is a consistent quality of engineering, which means they are testing their products before they release them. And you see a lot of missteps with the other boat manufacturers. And that's the reason why those two went to the top. And then, of course, Autowake really kicked it into gear for us. And I would say the other reason that we valued Supra more is for that one word, value. You know, Natiques can be really expensive. And if you can afford that, by all means, go for it. But we just felt like the Supra Moomba combination gave us great engineered boats, great waves, and they didn't break the bank as much as, let's say, Malibu or Natique. And that's important for a family, especially a family of 8 people. So to summarize that, Supra has been consistent with iterative improvements, solid innovation, excellent engineering, and excellent testing. As an example of that kind of quality engineering that I'm talking about, I remember when we were on our older Tigé, it was a 2016 RZX. Gosh, that boat made an amazing wave. But we were always lying down to reprime the pumps. It used those old aerator, well, they're still around, like bilge type pumps, the aerator pumps, and they don't prime very well. And after, maybe when they're brand new, they work pretty well, but we were always having to go into the bottom of the boat, stick our hands down there and reprime those pumps to get them to work. And when you're in a $150,000 surf boat, it's kind of embarrassing with other people to always go down and do things like that. When Supra came out with their ballast system, I remember it took them a little longer to come out with it. But when you looked at what they did, the level of engineering and testing where they put 2 of the really heavy duty, reliable Jabsco type pumps for each so for the front you have 2, for the left rear you have 2, for the right rear you have 2. So you had redundancy in every spot. That's one thing. And it gave you speed when both of them were working together. And if you know those pumps, they always prime. You just have to change your impellers once in a while. And that system works, and it's solid, and it almost I've rarely had an issue. Most of the time, maybe I haven't changed an impeller, and so one of the pumps will start to get weak, and I'll notice the time start to go up in that area, so we have to change the impellers, but it doesn't break. So let's talk about the other boats. I don't want to beat up Tigé too much, but we've already talked about there were some issues with Tigé with engineering and consistency, and that was the main issue that we had there. Let's talk about like Centurion. I would say the same thing. There was they would do some great innovation, but then at the same time, they would have a lot of problems. This is just personal bias. I've just never been really fond of the interior and style of those boats. Some people think they're amazing, and so that's great. No worries. When we have friends that have Centurions, we get in them and enjoy them just like everybody else. I also haven't been fond of a lot of the Centurions where they have a very bow up riding posture. So to get the best wave, you have to get that pitch way up. And so even though the boat might say, well, this boat holds 6,000 pounds of ballast, 11,000 pounds of displacement or something like that, but it doesn't really matter if you have to empty out all the ballast in the front and then add a bunch of lead to the back. You're still adding a lot of lead, even though that number that shows up on the brochure is really high. So that's one of the reasons. But again, a lot of people love the boats. If you have one, no shade to you. I'll surf with you anytime and ride in your boat. Then you can ride in mine. We'll have a blast. Supreme, similar to Tigé and Centurion on those issues. Their surf system was always a little bit behind. I just felt like it didn't do any of those things really well. It was a good value. Yeah, it just didn't hit it for me on engineering, didn't hit it for me on the wave, and I've just never been really fond of that boat. But, your mileage may vary. Malibu, very nice looking boat. But they've had so many problems, especially when they went public, and you hear about all of the various things. I mean, look, they've been in the news, so I don't need to go through all of that stuff. I remember hearing a lot of things from dealers where boats would come to them that looked like they weren't even done, and so the dealers would have to finish them, and customers would find a lot of issues and so forth. That's the main problem there. Also, the Surfgate, what a great innovation that they came out with. But we'll talk about this more when we talk about surf systems. But the Surfgate, doesn't give you the same level of consistent wave that I can get from our Supra. Axis, let's just put them in the same category as Malibu. Just cheaper. Mastercraft. I always felt like Mastercraft was trying to be the best brand, the Gucci, like this amazing brand, what that name meant, but I didn't always see it backed up by the actual boat, the quality, the features, the engineering. Same thing with their surf system and so forth. So kind of steered away from there. And a lot of the people that worked there just never got along well with them. And it just said a lot about that boat company. And so I steered away from Mastercraft. And, a lot of my friends and so forth, they have had a lot of the same results. Natique. I can't say anything bad about Natique. It's just that they're too expensive. Consistent, beautiful. My family, the Natique makes a unique wave. You either love it or you don't. It's a good wave. It's a great wake surf wave objectively, but I don't prefer it. My family doesn't prefer it. We prefer the Supra wave. That's a total preference issue. That's like liking, redheads over brunettes or something like that. So, I don't, put a knock on Natique for that. The engineering, the quality, the people that I've worked with there when we were doing the polar bear events, top-notch people. So I have nothing bad to say. Their boats can be very expensive, and if that's for you, then you should do it. Now, why do I love Supra? Well, we've talked about that a little bit already. Same thing with Natique. I really feel like they have quality and consistent engineering. I like the wave better. It has so much push. It's super clean. The shape, I just love it. It is, a lot of it is preference. But I will say the one thing, and we'll talk about this more, the surf system and Autowake, I think that breaks the tie. It really puts it over the edge. They're consistently a better value, whether it's a Supra to Natique or it's their GS series and the Moombas, or even that is a big, that's a huge difference. But I feel like with Supra and Moomba, you can get great luxury and great features at a good value, and then you can get more of a budget wake surf boat for a family, and it's still a good value. And you get Autowake on all of them. So you've heard me talk about the engineering a lot, and I just want to leave it about talking about all the boats. In my opinion, now I am an engineer, but I'm not a mechanical engineer. I'm a software engineer, a DevOps engineer. Engineering means everything to me because it means that they care about the quality of the boat that they make, and they put a lot of time testing and a lot of time working through issues to try to make sure that they deliver something that is going to be consistent for you. Now, every boat company has problems. They all have supply chain. A certain, maybe like shafts start making noise and it's across all the boats. There's a lot of stuff that affects everybody. But for the most part, I have found that consistent engineering has been the thing that I want to look for first in a boat, and then the preference issues after. Let's talk about surf systems. Now, this is the part that I really start to enjoy, but it might also piss a lot of people off. It's hard to make a consistent wave. Going back to the days when we didn't have surf systems and we just weighted the boat, we would talk, okay, here's how you set this type of boat up. You put, this amount of lead and this amount of weight in this corner and so forth, and you would kind of describe it that way. And we came to learn that really it doesn't matter where the weight is. It does, but what matters is the effect that it has. The effect that it would have is that you would list the boat over a certain amount, that you would pitch the boat up a certain amount or down. And that was really it. So the amount of weight, so by getting that list, getting that roll just right when you don't have a surf system, is you have to roll it over enough to where it causes the release of the water at the back of the boat to be uneven, and that's what creates the wave on one side. But you need a good amount of list. On our old boats, I remember it was like up to 15 or so degrees of list. It depended on the boat, the hull. And then pitch is what gives you the steeper the pitch, you're going to have a shorter, steeper wave, and then the shallower or lower the pitch, you're going to have a longer but less tall wave. So when I say short, I mean length, front to back, and when I say tall or small, I mean height. So that's basically what you need to make a wave. Now, what does a surf system do? There's another piece that we didn't do very well back then, and it just depended on the boat that would do it more naturally, and it had to do with yaw. Yaw would be, because of the boat having a prop that turns only one direction, it tends to cause the water to go onto, when it leaves the back of the boat, it's spinning in one direction, so you have wash that goes more to one side than the other. And you could see that with, some of the old like Centurions. You would have transmissions that did them one right way and one left the other way, and basically you could see that would make one type of boat would make a better wave on the goofy side, and one would make one better on the regular. And then some boats, for whatever reason, they made a decent wave on both sides. So that's a part of it. Now yaw, where that comes into place, is that with a little bit of yaw in one direction or the other, when you're making that surf wave, you can counteract which way that wash is going by just crabbing that boat just a little bit. If you do use too much yaw, then you start taking away push and you start losing some of the great characteristics of your wave. Too little yaw and the wave is clean. So you've got, all those things balance out to make a really great wave. So that's three things. The position of the boat, the amount of delay of the water going behind the boat, so that it makes that great wave because the water offsets each other as it releases, and then yaw. And so basically the surf system does that for you. What it does is it should do all three of those things. It should also help in producing that wave on one side of the boat, and it should have a specific amount of yaw that's the amount you need to make that great wave. Now, so what's wrong with like the surf gate, for instance? Well, the big problem with the surf gate is that it really kind of can only do two of those things and not one real well. So it does what Malibu would call delayed convergence, where it produces a big wave because it is stalling the water releasing on one side, and so therefore it makes a good wave on the other side. It doesn't do a really good job of getting that list exactly how you want it. And then it probably produces more yaw than you need because you're sticking something out the side of the boat. So with the other types of surf system, like the Supra, Swell, and others, with the tabs or the NSS like it is, it has a better chance of putting the boat in the exact position that you want, both tuning the amount of yaw you want, tuning how much list it gives you, and then also provides that added benefit that it changes the way the water releases off the back to make that great wave. And the great thing that happens when you have a surf system is you no longer need 15 degrees of list, which is incredible. I mean, I used to get a sore neck sitting in the corner of the boat. One of the things that I love about the Supra Swell system, and I think NSS and some of them do this better than others, is that they provide all three of those things. And I know with Supra, and I think it's the same with NSS, but they do a really good job of engineering and tuning them to work out exactly how all three of those things work together. Why not use the surf system to adjust the wave? You see that all the time. You look at a lot of the videos, the brochure videos of the different boats, and they have a system where you just push a button and you say, oh yeah, let's make it shallower, let's make it steeper. And what that's usually doing, it's doing one of two things. One is it can adjust the tab in the center of the boat, which is usually called the wake plate. And then it'll also can adjust the tabs on the side of the boat, which would adjust, how much that tab is going down. So it does two things when you adjust that tab. One changes the way the water converges at the back of the boat, behind the boat, and then it also reduces the amount of list, or it alters the way that the boat has a roll in the water. But when you do that, it's like making a partial wave. So when you take a fully deployed surf tab and that makes your full wave, and you slowly bring it up, it will create a shallower wave. So it'll usually create a little bit longer wave, and it'll be not as steep, not as tall, and you can ride it and it can feel pretty good. But do the same thing with leaving that tab fully deployed and instead adjust the weight. So in other words, in that case, if I wanted a shallower wave, I would put more weight in the front and I would bring the pitch down that way. Now, the other thing you could do is you can adjust the wake plate. There's so many plates, right? It's so much to adjust. But if you adjust the wake plate, that's another problem, because when the plate is all the way up, the water runs along the bottom of the boat and out the back clean. And if you understand how water goes over a curved surface, and here's a little video, a little experiment that I did. It's something called the Kawanda effect. Basically, when you have a curved surface with water running along it, it creates suction. So it actually pulls the boat down. So you got to think about this. You're putting all this weight. So you're displacing 10, 11,000 pounds, whatever it is. And you're doing that to get that boat to dig in. Because when you dig in, that's what makes the wave. It's the physics of the boat displacing all that water, creating that hole, and then it's got to come back out and it makes the wave. So you're doing all of that to make the best wave with the most power that you can. And then you're putting the plate down, taking the back of the boat and bringing it out. And that plate, when it comes down and the water hits it, it disrupts that suction, that Kawanda effect. And then it also can make the water more turbulent as it comes out the back, which makes the wave not as good. So in our experience, and you could go try this yourself, go out there, make a good wave, and then make it shallower by putting the wake plate down. And then make it steeper by putting it back up. Now do the same thing by just adjusting the pitch down or up with weight and leaving the wake plate up, assuming that you're just moving weight. So you're not adding weight in any of those scenarios. The weight, the displacement of the entire boat is the same. You're gonna see that the wave is better when the wake plate is up and you use the weight, because you get that added suction. It's that clean release off the bottom of the boat. It really makes a difference. Now some boats, they need a little bit of wake plate, the wake plate down a little bit. It helps clean up the wave. You might need to do that, but my basic advice here is to always try to make the wave with the wake plate as high up as possible. And just remember, you can see here in the video where I'm showing that Kawanda effect, I have my fake little wake plate down there, and you can see when that wake plate is down, the water just kicks off. It just kicks off. It does not stick to the bottom of the boat anymore, and you're losing that smooth suction, that smooth displacement as you go through the water. And you can, you will see the difference if you play around. That's why I don't think the surf gate is as good as the other types of systems. And I also think of all the surf systems, some of them are more bolt-on. Like the manufacturers are going and they're getting a surf system that's made for a lot of different boats and they bolt them on. Hey, that looks good. For instance, I know with Natik, I know with Supra especially, with all the testing they do and some of the feedback that we give them, that they've made adjustments over time to make that as perfect as they can with a lot of testing. It's that consistent quality engineering. That was a lot of information. So how do I set up the boat? Well, I made a video a while back. It's how to make a wake surf wave, where do I put the lead, and there's a link in the corner if you want to click on it, and it's also in the description. If you watch that video, you're going to see what I did with Jesse. Is first we just drove without a rider, and we kind of drove forward and we moved some lead around. We started with it in the middle of the boat and we filled up the ballast all the way. Okay, so once we fill up the ballast all the way and we just have all the lead kind of in the middle of the boat, then we started letting water out of the bags. If we needed the pitch to come up a little, we let water out of the front. If we needed the pitch to go down, we put water more in the front, maybe move a little lead up front, or you can actually let water out of the back. The key is not displacement here. The key in this first part is let's figure out what's the best pitch and roll to make the best wave for our boat. And then I would throw, once we kind of get an idea of where it looks good, we might move the lead so we're within range, and I throw Jessie out there and she holds onto the rope so that way I don't have to keep turning around if she falls, because we're going to be testing different levels of push. So then we start at around 9 degrees of pitch, and for the roll, basically we list over just the amount to where the wave cleans up. You don't want any more than that, because then you start taking away displacement and you also start losing push when you list over too much. So you want just enough to make a clean wave. On the goofy side, that's usually about 4 or 5 on our Supras or Moombas. And then on the regular side, sometimes it's at 0 or -1, maybe -2, but usually no more than -1. If you have flow 3 on the Moomba, it's usually you need a little less list and you need a little more if you're on flow 2. So we get just that right amount of roll. We start about 9 degrees of pitch, and then we'll let some water out in the front and see, okay, so we get closer to 10, what happens? On some boats, when you put that pitch up, there's a point like 10 to 11 degrees, the RPMs start going up and it starts slowing down. You realize you don't have enough motor when you put the wave up, the pitch up that high. I like to find where that point is, but it's not necessary. When you get up to that point, you're not going to make a better wave. Maybe if you had a monster motor and you push through it, you could have a big juicy wave. But and that's why a 550 or a better prop will help you make a better wave. But usually once you get up over 10-ish, even if you had a better motor, you're not going to get a better wave. So somewhere between 8 to 10 degrees of pitch, I usually find that I have a really nice pushy wave that has a good shape that we like. Now, some people on our boat like it a little shallower. Some people like it a little steeper. We usually start at 9, and my son goes to 9.5 or 10, and Jesse will go 8.5 to 9. You know, it depends. That's a little preference, but you just find that nice sweet spot. Speed is about 11 miles per hour. Now, this is key. If you go too slow, the wave is always going to be shorter. And one way that you would make it longer is that you pitch down. So you end up with a slower wave. You have to pitch down to make the wave longer, but then you lose a lot of push. So how do you get a long wave and a lot of push and good height? It's when you combine a little bit of extra speed and a good amount of pitch. So you get that pitch up a bit and you get that speed up a bit, and you make the best wave. It does waste a little more gas, but I'm going to teach you a little trick about that too. So that's the key. Once I figure out where my pitch and my roll needs to be, and then I can switch side to side and see that I have my weight balanced in the boat, so I can switch and barely have to, and it should be, and this is the way on all of our Supras and Moombas that of the last couple years, is that when you switch from side to side, you should not have to move any water from side to side. The boat should be clean on both sides. That's not necessarily the case on a Flow 2, but it should be that way in a Moomba with a Flow 3. So that's how I do it. Once I get to that point, what I do is I fill up all of the ballast to 100%. And wherever my middle pitch was, so if I find that at around 9-ish is the middle of the road, and then I can go to 10 or I can go to 8, but I go to the middle of where I think my sweet spot is. So like let's say our sweet spot is from 8.5 to 10. I'll just pitch right, hold it right in the middle, and then what I do is fill up all of the ballast tanks and then move the lead to achieve that pitch. So what that means, that when I fill up all of my ballast at 100% ballast with that whatever little bit of lead that I have, whether it's a few 100 pounds to 1,000, whatever you want to do, then you're going to end up with the most optimal setup because you're using all of your ballast. And that works really well. That's going to give you the best bang for your buck. The great thing about some of the newer boats that Supra has brought out, like the Supra SA, this last generation of Supra SE, they need a lot less lead than they did previously, which is amazing. So it's like before with my Supra SE, I had to have at least 1,000 pounds of lead and people in the boat. Now, 3 people in the boat, and I use about 500 or 600 pounds of lead. It's about 600 pounds of lead. And that wave is outstanding. The new Supra SA, you don't need lead at all. The new Moomba Max, you don't need lead at all. And I'm not kidding. You see the waves that we put out. You can see it here on these boats. It's amazing. The Tykon, you need a little bit. That boat's a little bit longer. With all that weight in that Max, you're going to want that better prop. Make sure you follow the guidelines that I gave in that previous video. But motor makes a big difference. Now, I want to talk about using Autowake. So once you get all that set up, and I have Autowake now set to my perfect pitch and roll, and then as I ride, if somebody says they need a little more pitch, a little more roll, all I do is just set Autowake, and Autowake will either let water out of the back or put weight in the front or release weight in the front. It's going to do whatever it needs to get that pitch. Now, if you set everything up so you're right within your sweet spot, it's only going to let out a little bit of water. Also, if you set up your boat so that you have your small amount of people, like on us, it's 3 people, me, my wife, and Jesse. Sometimes just me and my wife. If I set up my boat to be perfect for my small crew, I know when I'm out with my small crew, I'm going to be at 100%, and Autowake is going to have everything full. I'm going to have that optimized wake for us, and I'm usually going to be right under 4,000 RPM.
like 39, 39.50, but pay attention to your RPM at like, let's say 11.4 or 11.2 miles per hour. That's usually what I'm at. Even in my Supra SE with the big 550 at 11.4 miles per hour, I can surf like that all day, just under 4,000 RPM, and I get about 8 gallons per hour. And we measured over a long period of time. As soon as we take on 5 or 6 people, all of a sudden, everything's set up the same, but you're doing 4,500 RPM. 4,800 RPM, depending on how many people you have in the boat. You waste a ton more gas. Like, you're going to be easily ripping 10 to 12 gallons per hour when you're doing that. If your wife is like mine, she's throwing things at you. You spend a lot of money. How do you deal with that? Well, there's this little thing that a lot of people don't realize. The Autowake system has had this. You just go to amplitude. Your amplitude is set for 100. And what that means is I want maximum, give me the most ballast and everything you can to give me the best wave. Just dial down the amplitude until your RPM matches what it does when you're with your small crew. So with us, when we're with our small crew, let's say we're at 39 to 39.50 RPM. We add 5 or 6 people to the boat. Everything's set up the way it usually is. We're doing 4,600 RPM and burning gas. Dial down that amplitude. Maybe you dial it down to 70% or 80%, whatever it is. Just watch your RPM. When your RPM gets to the same that it usually does when you're riding with your small crew, you'll look back there. The people that normally ride your wave, they're gonna look and say, that's that great wave I know. It's gonna be awesome. So basically, the RPM is a good indication of how much you're displacing in the water, and you can get back to that same amount of gas, that 8 gallons an hour that you want to be spending, just by dialing it down a little bit. And it's going to let some water out of the boat. Now, the same thing happens if you have a smaller motor and you have 3 people normally, and you surf all day and it's fantastic. Everything's at 100%. It works great. You're about 4,000 RPM. You're at that pitch of 9 or whatever you like. But you get 5 more people in the boat and all of a sudden your motor's bogging down. You could go get another prop or if you want to do that. But you also could just dial down that amplitude and get that RPM and get everything right. And it's going to be the same great wake that you had when you only have 3 people. You're just dialing down your ballast a little bit because of all the extra people you have. There are some times when I have 6 or 7 new people in the boat, I just want to have fun. That SE that we have, it's going to make an even bigger, more fun wave with all that extra weight. We don't do that all the time. There are times when we have extra people, we just let it go. You know what? I'm just spending the money. Just watching the money burn. Just throwing it out, letting it rain. And it's a blast. And we have fun. We don't do that all the time, but you can if you want, if that's what you want to do. Or if you just want to have 3 people and load your boat up with enough lead to do that all the time, all the power to you. But the main point is, with your small crew, set your boat up the way I'm describing to give you the wave that you want all of the time. That encompasses several things. How good your wave is and how much it's costing you by the hour. You make that determination for yourself. For me, you keep it right under 4,000. I found that to be the sweet spot. Maybe for you, you don't care. You just want a bigger wave, and that's fine. Get that 550, make that bigger wave. Get those RPMs going. Boat's made for it. It's not going to hurt anything. Have fun. But use that amplitude to tune it as you need for whatever you're doing. And it's also a great way if you have, maybe somebody smaller riding back there that you want to just bring the wave down. Just pop that thing down. That's a tip that a lot of people don't know. Putting it out here. I'm going to put out another video just on that specific thing. So here's the meat. Which of the Skier's Choice boats should you buy? Now, you may be saying, but hey, I thought you liked the Tykon, or what about these other boats too? Look, buy whatever boat you want. But after everything that I just went through, I told you all of that to let you know why I love Skier's Choice. Okay, some of it's a little bit of personal bias. Some of it's a little bit of loyalty. But a lot of it is quality engineering. A lot of it is, I just see consistency. And I love that. And I love Autowake. I just think it's the bee's knees. Take that for whatever it's worth. So of these new boats, I want to talk about the Moomba Max, the Moomba Tykon, the Moomba Makai, the Supra SA, the Supra SE, and the Supra SL. Let's start with the Moomba Max. If you're looking for a boat that's not going to break the bank, but give you an amazing wave, the Moomba Max is amazing. That boat doesn't need any ballast. It's boxy. Some people don't like the way it looks, think it's kind of ugly. I'll be honest, when I first saw it, I thought, that's not the prettiest boat I've ever seen. After riding in it back in 2017 or 18 when we first rode, I fell in love with that boat. Because that thing, it's boxy, so you have like more room in it. Everything is kind of spacious when you open up the storage and everything. And it's awesome. It grows on you. And that way, it's amazing. And I'm telling you, this new one, with the amount of ballast they have and the way they have it set up, the only thing is you need more prop. That weight that they have in there, you barely have enough weight to make a good wave, in my opinion. I like the pitch up and the faster speed. Remember that. If you don't do that, you're fine. But if you're like me, you need to adjust the prop. You just get their prop made for surfing. Tell them, give me the prop the Wake9 recommends, and they'll get it. Okay, they know. But I can't tell you, if that boat is amazing. I absolutely love it. Now, the Moomba Tykon, that's the next step up. You know, it's at least a foot longer, so it's a 24, the Moomba Max is 22, and the Tykon, actually the Moomba Max is 23 feet, and the Moomba Tykon is 24 and a half, I think, and it's great. You notice that extra room. I have a big family. I probably would go with the Tykon over the Mac, and I would need a little bit of lead because that boat needs a little bit of, even though it's got a ton of ballast, and it works great. And the same thing, I would get the more aggressive prop if you have a 400. If you have the 550 in there, you're gonna be fine. Lots of room in that boat. There's lots of room for the lead. Like I said, those boats are more boxy. They have a lot of room inside of them, so when you put the lead in, you don't really notice so much. And you don't need that much. I only needed a few 100 pounds of lead. Between those two boats, if it's a Moomba, those are the ones that I like the most. They're just utilitarian. They get the job done. If you have kids, make them do all the work. The Bimini, it's manual. Make them do it. That's what I would do, and that's what I did. Now, what about the Makai? The Makai's a great boat. It makes an excellent wave. It gives you more luxury. You got that really cool tower. You got that stereo stuff. The interior is nicer. It's more luxurious. Not quite like a Supra, but it's like a real middle ground. Pay more money for it too, but it's nice. The things that I didn't like about the Makai as much, because of all the more luxury and all those things, you try to get the lead in there, and they tried to pack in a lot of weight because that boat needs a lot of weight. The Tykon, it's the same amount of weight that they need. It's just that there's a little less room in the Makai, so you're a little bit tighter. It's not bad at all. I mean, I think it works. But when you consider the way the Tykon is, it's just up to you. Do you want to have the more luxury, or do you want to have the more utilitarian? The Makai can make just as good of a wake as the Tykon, and vice versa. Really, the issue is that you need a little more lead in the Makai. You're going to feel like the lead took away a little bit of my room, and the Tykon didn't as much. They're all going to give you a great wave. I would recommend getting the Flow 3 on all of them. Let me talk about the Supras. The SA, the SE, and the SL. First, I love these boats. The new features in them. You know, every time they come up with the feature, what do you need that for? That's just stupid. Why do you need power steering? Why do you need a Bimini that you push a button? But as I get older, let me tell you, that push button Bimini it's awesome. That step that comes out the back. I mean, look, I've lost a lot of weight. I get in the boats a lot easier, but it's nice when you're with people. You take out somebody that's even older or fatter or whatever. That retractable step, it's nice. The speakers, the new stereo on those things are insane. You know what? It's so much fun. And you know, I'd like to say, hey, I'll just take a Tykon and be fine. I'm getting old. I like that stuff. I like these Supras. The SA, you don't need any lead. You really don't. It's that great. The only drawback I say on the SA is, do you like those back seats or not? I thought they were fantastic. My wife liked them too, but you lose a little bit of storage with the way those back seats are. So if that storage is important to you, make sure you look at that. The only other thing, I would say the SA Wave is better than the SE or the SL. On the goofy side, it's a little less clean and you have to adjust it a little bit. I'm hoping maybe that we can spend some time and figure out how to even adjust that a little better. We did find using the surf prop helped clean that up a little bit. Even with that little bit of of extra dirtiness on the goofy side. The push on that wave, the way that wave felt was incredible. And so I still think it's a better wave. There's that. Do you love all those features? Do you want that new boat? I would get the 550. These boats are pushing so much displacement. You want the 550. You're going to be able to make a good wave. And if you follow my tips about that 4,000 RPM, you'll be able to keep the cost within reason. Where does that go with the Supra SE? Which has always been my favorite boat. It's still my favorite boat. And the bottom line is the wave, the SA, gosh, I'm hoping that that SE is going to come out in a couple years and it's going to have an even better wave like the SA does on the SC. But at the same time, it's just room. With that huge lake limo, that boat, it's an amazing smooth wave. It doesn't let me down. I love it so much. And I'm still in that 23. I love it. I don't have the power bimini or the extra swim step on the back, but I don't want to give that boat up. I mean, who knows? Maybe with the same boat with the bimini and the swim step, I'd probably take it. I love the SE, and it's really the room. I have 7 grandkids now. Even though there are times I'm only going out with just my wife or with just Jesse, it doesn't matter. I might have all my grandkids with me and I want to be able to do that comfortably. And it's just nice to have that extra room. We have 600 pounds of lead. You don't even know what's in there. You can't even tell. It's just so well balanced the way they've made the new tanks in the back. It just works perfectly for me. Last is the Supra SL. I think I would have to put it, there's going to be a new Supra SL coming out. This is going to change. It's probably going to be the SL, the SL or their SA are going to be the best wave. And then it's going to be the SE at the back. Right now, I'd say it's in my opinion, the SA makes the best wave, then the SE, then the SL. And, it just rotates as they come out with the newer stuff. But the SL, it was our first love with Supra. My wife, still not sure if she likes that boat better, the wave. I think the main thing is how much room do you need? And do you want to go, for the SA because it has those rear seats and it has that extra juicy wave, especially if you're a regular side rider. So, it's up to you. I want to add one more thing about the Supras. I mentioned the power steering a little bit. The power steering is nice. Like, you can literally drive and barely touch the wheel, or you can let go, and you could have let go before. The Supra track's so straight. There's one thing about it that I got to tell you, it's a marriage saver, is that my wife, when she pulls me, I can't tell you how many times she goes to pull me and all of a sudden we're going right, we're going left, but she can never figure out which way is straight. She turns the wheel and it doesn't quite know how to get it back. The new steering system on the Supras, it has a little indicator that tells you when you're straight. And so all she has to do is look down there and she can tell she needs to be a little right and a little left, whatever, and she gets it right every time. It's a marriage saver. You can also turn it on to where when you let go of the wheel, it'll just automatically go to straight. It's very adjustable. You can make the power steering where it helps a lot or it just helps a little. So you can set it. It's amazing. Now the other side is people say, hey, the more electrical stuff like that, the more chances something can break. I hear you. But so far, those things have been very reliable. I think that covers it of all the boats. That should tell you. I would pick of all the Moombas. I'm torn between the Max and the Tykon, but the Makai is outstanding. On the Supras, I would pick the SE all day, every day, because there's nothing I love more than having enough room for my grandkids and that amazing, beautiful boat and that beautiful wave. But the other two are outstanding, and I can't say enough about that Super SA wave. Got to go try it out. Bottom line between Moomba and Supra. Look, if you have kids and you're young, you need to save the money, go with the Moomba. You're not going to miss anything. Make your kids do all the work. You're going to have the best time. You don't need to have all that luxury. If you want it and you can afford it, go for it. For me, train your kids to do it. That's a great thing to teach them how to do. And you're going to have just as much fun on the water because the wave is outstanding. But get the Flow 3. And if you're with the smaller motor, get the more aggressive prop. On the Supra, it's just, if you're older or you just can afford it, you like that plush stuff. Look, I'd almost do it alone for the stereo. I got to be honest with you. I'm just an old Mexican and I love that. I love that thumping music. That basically is how I would choose the boat. I am definitely biased. My bias comes from 16 years of experience with these boats and all the various things that we've done. And remember, we don't sell anything. We don't make any money off of anything. We get the use of a boat and that's it, which is great. We also do a lot of work. Whatever you choose, I love it that you let me know that we were a part of your decision, or let the dealers know. This is all about the love of the sport for us. It's always been about that. And remember, there's always going to be a more beautiful woman. There's always going to be a nicer truck or a nicer car. Just shut up and go surf with your family. Have a great time. Put your comments and ask any questions. I'm going to do some follow-up videos if I get a lot of questions in any specific area. So this was fun. I hope this was enjoyable. I only do this type of video usually in the off season, but I hope it gave you all the information you needed. It's going to start getting warm soon. It's like 20 degrees outside right now, but can't wait. Talk to you soon.